Hey, my name is Brent here on Cloudy with a Chance Meeples. Today we are looking at a game all about flowers. We are going to be working in the garden and building a stock portfolio out of flowers. Paper flowers. I love the artwork in this. Okay? I am not that creative, but to make these things out of flower, or make these flowers and butterflies and bees out of paper is absolutely fascinating and looks just mesmerizing. I love it. But let's dive into this game. I'll show you how it plays in the radar overview. My final forecast coming up. Cue the thunder. So the radar overview for Stalk Exchange looks something like this. Here I have it set up for a 2-player game, but I have it kind of a turn or two into the game with a few extra tokens here. Everybody gets this little Stock Exchange shed, which typically you would put your tokens behind. You kind of stack them up in each different flower type, but for the purpose of this, I'm going to show you all of my flowers because I know you're not going to cheat. How does this game play? Well, it plays over multiple turns. Everybody, like I said, starts with some flowers. Depending on how many players you're playing with, will reflect on how many flowers you get. You will always have the same amount of flowers behind your shed during the game, the entirety of the game. So in a 2-player game, you're going to have 12 the whole time. Everybody gets 3 CD tokens that will let you do an extra action if you choose to do so. I will say that all the artwork in this is actually paper flowers. So I don't know if you can see exactly, but it's all paper art. And I find that to be really, really neat because I can't do that. And that someone can do that is fascinating to me. But how does this game play? Well, on your turn, you have 2 basic actions. Everybody gets this little player aid, which are cardstock, or not cardstock, they are cardboard. So that's kind of nice. But you have 2 basic actions, and optionally, you can spend a CD business token to do an extra action. You got the pun there. And so the first action you can do is you can plant a flower from the Stock Exchange garden. So right here, I could take any one of these 6 and I could plant it. Or I could swap. I could take something from behind my shed and I could swap it. So maybe I do this. 1. And the second thing I do is maybe I do in fact plant. And I would have to plant something from here. So anytime I plant something, I flip it over because on the back of all these tokens shows a bulb because before flowers can bloom, they in fact have to be planted. So I would put it face down, bulb side down, and that would be my 2 actions. I could 3 times in a game use a CD token to do an additional action, either a swap or a plant. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do my 2 actions. I'm going to plant that. I will also say once per game, instead of doing a 3rd action, I could spend a CD business token, flip it over, put it in front of my shed, and wipe this whole market. If I didn't like any of these 6, I could wipe it all, put them all into the compost bag, take 6 more from the greenhouse, refill it, and then I could do my turn. After you've done your 2 basic actions, there's a little bit of an upkeep phase. The first thing you do is you harvest any surrounded flowers. So any flower that's fully surrounded and bloomed would then be harvested. So in this case, this red tulip would be harvested. I'd put that there and I would move this up 1. So the price or the value of the tulips now are 1 at the end of the game. Step 2, I would bloom bulbs with at least 1 adjacent empty space. So I cannot do the one that I just planted, but any other that was done on a previous turn, so these 3, 1, 2, 3, would then all of a sudden bloom. So I'd flip that one over, flip that one over, flip that one over. And then the 3rd thing I do, I'd update the stock value, which I did that. The 4th thing, whatever's at the end of the Stock Exchange would be moved to the compost. These would flip and I would replace. with 2 new flowers. That will be my turn. Comes back around to me, and let's say someone planted this one, and someone planted this one. We'll do this. That would be, all of a sudden, this would be harvested on their turn. That would move up. And this is the one I planted originally. I can't bloom it because it will not bloom because there's no adjacent open tile to it. So you can kind of block people from what they did on their turn by planting so that the flowers that they planted will in fact not bloom until other flowers are removed. So that would be the end of this phase because these just got planted. And then it will be back to my turn. So let's just move these guys over. And then it's my turn yet again. Well, what should we do? What should we do? What should we do? Because again, I could plant these 2. I got a lot of these pink ones and not many white ones. And I got a couple red ones and yellow ones. So let's, you know what? I'm going all in on these guys. I'd plant these. And then I would harvest. This one would be harvested. So the pink one would move up 1. And then this is sometimes when it gets a little crazy, remembering which ones I did just plant. So I just planted this one and this one. So this would be harvested. Or these would all bloom. This would get put into the compost pile. Moved over. And it would be the next player's turn. So that's, in a nutshell, how the game progresses. So as the game progresses, let's just do this. We're going to move all these as if they all got harvested throughout the game. Let's do like that. And then say it's the next player's turn and they harvest something like this. There, this moves up. Immediately the game would end because whenever these 2 tracks meet, so the value of the flowers meets with a harvested flower, the game ends, and whichever one meets drops in price halfway, rounding up. So now it crashes these little tulips, I think they are. Or to say, no, it is the snowdrops. They would immediately crash. They'd be worth half the points at the end of the game. And then you go into final scoring. You have this. So all the yellows will be worth 7. So that will be 27 points for the yellows for me. All of the pink ones would be 6. So 28 plus 24 is a number I cannot think of off the top of my head right here. 28, 38, 48, 52. Sundrop would be 62, and each of my red ones, which would be 3. 62 plus 6 is 68. So my final score would be 68. And then you just put everybody's names, the value of everything, add up the math. Whoever has the most points is the winner. The game, I should also say, will end when the greenhouse bag, if the greenhouse bag becomes empty. And that, to me, I've never had that happen, but I think the only way that would happen is if everybody is, in fact, flushing the market and using all of these tokens. But there you have it. That, in a nutshell, is how you play Stalk Exchange. Let's move on over now and take a look at the final forecast. So the final forecast for Stalk Exchange, a game all about puns. Not totally true, but not totally not true. Stalk Exchange, of course, obviously. Stalk Exchange. You got a community hedge fund. You have these seedy business tokens, which virtually just give you an extra action. So there's a few puns in this, and so let's dive in. This game all about flowers. Let's talk about production first and foremost. Where do I start? Okay, well, the box is a little bit bigger than maybe it needs to be. Everybody gets one of these little sheds. This is where you keep all of your tokens. I find them to work but a little bit cumbersome, because if you're stacking your things up, like how far are you going to have to push these things in, and then you're trying to pull out your tokens to be like, how many of these do I have, or so if you got like chunky fingers like myself, you might have a problem with that. I will say that I do enjoy that these tokens aren't cardboard. They are little light wooden tokens. They're screen printed. They look nice, but they're a little bit they're glossy, but they're a little bit like, how do I explain this? Multiple times I've tried to pick them up and they've kind of like shot out of my hands. Like they're not slippery, but you go to pick them up and they kind of like, whatever the case is, they're falling all over my table as I'm demonstrating this. But they're really light, so you go to pick them up and you can kind of shoot them across like a crocono, not unwillingly or not trying to. And so they're nice, but be aware of that. I'll also say that you get these two little linen cloth bags, the greenhouse and the compost. They start all in the greenhouse bag and they end up in the compost bag. But as you see, there's a lot of them, and to get them all into this compost bag, like, you cannot put your hand in there to mix them up at all. So when I start, I split them between the two bags, do the game setup, and then pour them all back into the greenhouse bag. Back of the tokens, they all have bulbs on them. They show what's on the other side. They're all different colors and whatnot, but that's the only thing that separates the back sides of all of them. So it's a little small. I don't know how else they could have done that. And it's a little paper bulb, which is how people do that. Really, really mind-blowing to me. But how does this game play? On your turn, simple actions. You got two actions. You can either plant twice, exchange twice, or one of each. Of course, you have the CD business tokens. You can do one of those actions a third time, or like you can have a third action, or you can just wipe the whole market altogether. But you can't plant from what you have behind your shield. And so to do that, to plant, you got to remember that. Be like, I can't plant right here. I have to plant one of these 6. And when you do that, you have to remember, okay, I planted these 2. Because there's an upkeep phase after you've done the planting, after you've done your actions. Then anything that was planted on a previous turn will then bloom. But before that, anything that's fully enclosed will be harvested. And so there is a little bit of, you got to do this, which is explained on these player aids, which are tiles, which are nice. And so always do steps 1 through 3 if necessary, or do steps 1 through 3 if necessary. Always do step 4. So there is a little bit of a, not disjointed in the flow, but you do your turn. I'm going to swap and I'm going to plant. And then after I plant, I look to see if anything is fully enclosed, harvest those. Then I look to see all the bulbs that were planted on a previous turn, if there's an open adjacent hex beside them. If so, then those bloom. And then I put it on the board to change the value, and then I wipe the last in the Stalk Exchange. So there is some like mechanical things that need to be done that slows the game down a little bit. But the more I played, the more I've realized that you can kind of start boxing people out. If you see someone who's planting a lot of these pink ones, which are dahlias, right? Dahlias, yeah. If you see someone planting a whole bunch of these, maybe you're purposely trying to not box in other ones of these so that you're not helping them out. And it's kind of like that push and pull of, or not, maybe not push and pull, but a game of chicken where you're driving up your portfolio. Maybe you have a lot of tulips, but you don't want to have too many tulips, and you don't want the tulips to be the highest value because it's going to crash and it's going to be cut in half. So you want to have the most, or you want to have a lot of the second highest. And so, or maybe you have a lot of the tulips, and so you purposely start driving up other ones so that they crash, so that your tulips are actually the best of value at the end. So there's a little bit of head game in that. that you got to watch out for. You got to kind of watch what other people are doing, what they're swapping, what they're planting, and you can kind of judge and gauge how things are going in that regard. Like I said, you have those CD business tokens. You have a third action. When do you use those? And do you use them for an extra swap? Because you could swap out 3. That could be a big swing. Or you could plant 3. And then you could, maybe harvest a whole bunch of flowers that would help you out. But then you're also helping out other people. And so there's some interesting decisions in Stalk Exchange. I wasn't like wowed by it, but I did enjoy my plays of it. And for those that like the theme and like quick games with a little bit of strategy, but not like so much that their brain is burning, and they like kind of the gardening theme and nature and spring and things like that, this could definitely be a game that would be a hit for them. And plays in 45 minutes. Doesn't overstay its welcome. Plays 2 to 5. I haven't played at all player counts. I played at the 2 and the 3 player count, and they played well. Overall, I enjoyed it. So I'm going to give this one a 70% chance of meeples because I did enjoy my play of this. I played with my son, and he liked it, and it was good on math, good for like practicing math because, you know what? All the sun drops are worth 5. How many do you have? Oh, I have 3. Okay, you got 15 points from the sun drops. So a little bit of mental math is needed, but overall, 70% chance of meeples for Stalk Exchange. So there you have it. Makes me think of spring, which in January, one can only hope and wait for spring. Well, at least in central Canada in the cold. But 70% chance of meeples for Stalk Exchange. My name is Brent. Till next time, grab your umbrella. The forecast is cloudy with a chance of meeples.